And now we're live. That's you.
Cool.
I signed this.
Good evening, everyone. Is this microphone loud enough? Can you hear me in the back? Yes. Good. All right. Good evening. Welcome to the third and final set of BFA readings for this spring. It's great to see everyone here again. I'm really excited about tonight's set of readings. As I've said the past couple of weeks, I'm Merrick. I'm teaching the BFA cohort. I'm super proud of these graduating students. They turn in their BFA theses tomorrow morning. So, congratulations. That's a reminder to them in case they're don't remember the deadline. I'm up here to introduce the first reader tonight, Rose Newlon, and I have a particular reason to be especially happy about this introduction. If you've been here the past couple of weeks, you've heard me talk about students that I met for the first time in modern poetry last fall. And both times I had to say that maybe they didn't really think modern poetry was their thing. Hi, Sophie. But Rose was also in that class, and they didn't hate it. In fact, Rose recently wrote this in the critical introduction to their thesis. But then I enrolled in my modern poetry class, and everything changed. There, I read poems that were hardly readable at all, and others that proudly existed in their self-contained, unexplained referential glory. The question of why quickly became, well, why not? Rose's poetry indeed takes on the question, why not? Their words explore the world widely and with curiosity and do not feel the need to conform to expectations or to explain themselves. Rose's poetry finds the whimsical in the macabre and explores mysteries of the past, drawn from folklore, religion, mythology, and the liminal eeriness of Midwest life. Rose Newlon is a creative writing major with a minor in art. Born in Illinois with family from Ohio, they have an affinity for small towns and rural life. When they aren't writing, they love drawing, painting, and doing volunteer horse care. Please welcome to the stage, Rose Newlon.
Thank you. I didn't know what to expect. you to say, but that was really nice. So when working on my thesis, my mind seemed to be focused on three things: deer, daisies, and vampires. I also seemed to be in a playful mood because I wrote more nursery rhymes than I have probably ever written in my life. So I'm going to start us off with a vampire nursery rhyme. Valentine, Valentine, taken far too young, left in the woods neath willow hood from a night of fun. Valentine, Valentine, a bite in your vein has drained you dry, despite your cry, left you cold and slain. Valentine, Valentine, your blood is no more. It's time to rise before bright skies and knock upon my door. This one is another nursery rhyme titled Fasciation. For those who don't know, fasciation is when basically the center of two flowers grow together and become one merged, warped center. Fasciation. Daisy twin, daisy hand, daisy miss, daisy man. A miracle pops above, acidic soil spooks the dove. Not two, but one, Janus faced, the pious shout, God's disgrace. One half east, the other west, Father Michael clutches his chest. The gardener spears where stem meets root and buries the blossom under his boot. Daisy chain, daisy head, daisy cry, daisy dead. So that's the end of the nursery rhymes, but this next one is based on my favorite poem of all time, Two-Headed Calf. Anyone knows it? Vampire. Very creative title, I know. Tomorrow when the sun rises, his skin will blister and hiss, rousing him in a state of hysteric, stinging mania. Tomorrow when the farm boys find 6 cattle drained of blood, they will grab their rifles and charge the woods. But tonight, this freak of nature lies still on a bed of dandelions. It is a perfect summer night. The moon peeking through leaves above to coo soft greetings on his skin, the midnight moths kissing wine-stained lips. A perfect summer night, where memory of teeth gouging his neck hath long since faded, the gore pool beneath him beginning to dry. And as the curse fills his frozen, hollow veins, his chest rises in a whispered, hopeful cry. Okay, that's enough daisies and vampires. Time for the deer. Desperate harvest. Did you know deer might eat you? Deprived of blossom sprouts from sunlit earth, sopping juicy mouthfuls of the apple tree. Deprived of fruitful branches, sapped dry by the tongue, soft, sweet lichen, pressed to mossy wine between wanting teeth. They will hunger for a harvest of rotten rats and finches, flailing under razor hooves, shivering with need. They will hunger for everything, anything, staring down their crown of knives. Did you know, cornered, withering, tired and alone, the deer will eat you? Predator and prey. Deer call in the dark of midnight dawn. Screeching scrapes of bone, iron, coyote silent, crows frozen to listen. The grip on your gun tightened, strangled knot in your throat. Bullet gone, trigger pulled, blood-painted palms raised with trophy from the brush. But still the deer call and crawl, each shriek shaking boots from the dirt, each scream shoves down to marrow. Best hope howls of pain are not the hunger kind. Okay, I wouldn't say this next poem is about deer per se, but in a way it is about not deer. Ghostly Guardian. I never see you with my eyes, only in dreams and the back of my mind. Like a mirror I can only look through when I turn my head and look away. I can still see you. You are shadow, but solid shoulders hunch under thick furs trailing down to feet I've never seen. Legs I don't even think you have. Arms I do see, but not above the wrist, darker than the shade of your cloaks, darker than claws too polished to dodge the sunlight, the light you give. Curious how you change shape. In the day you stand like a monolith, casting its silhouette, shrouded in void, resisting bright rays. Only in the shade of trees I see your face. Like the shadow illuminates a skull. Your visage lacks skin, only bone. Not like mine is beneath flesh. It's long, perhaps a beak today. Tonight, maybe muzzle points and antlers sprout. Tomorrow, antlers turn to horns of goat and ram. Once the sun sets, shadow fades. I see the folds in your clothes. How long fingers hold claws with caution to nuzzle blooming moonflowers. A softness to empty eye sockets that give moonglow a home, moonglow on moonflowers, on shadow hands and skeleton face, gaunt from life. You give new sprouts. Am I another new sprout? Like a seedling breathes in breath from a beast so giant above its freshly cracked shell and baby hair roots. Are you the gardener of so many faces? Sewing stag fur into knit sweaters, bringing comfort in dark with the gift of sleep, shielding the earth from a blinding day's rays. Claws and skull, bad omens to some, but not me. Strange flesh. I saw you by the wild rose gates, tall, towering tall, tickling treetops that cast you in a shroud, like a deer shadow stretched by sunset. But it was far past us, and dead leaves crunched beneath your hooves. My gaze, through arches of thorns, stems naked, rosebuds long fallen, trail your spindly, sleek neck, your spine, twisted, crackled, and eye met eye. How soft you looked, face mirroring mine. Was it the moonlight glint in my pupils that turned your head my way, or the scent of blood beating my ears? Would you have hunted me if I did not stare with glossy eyes and reverence in my shiver? These next two poems are about a character I created a little while ago and have invested a lot of time in. So I'm hoping to make these a part of a series of poems about him. And his name is Hemlock. Hemlock the Undead. Hemlock. A poison plant with bunny-tail buds and lace leaves. What a name for a mortician. Especially one whose death was merely the deep sedation of his namesake, reborn from rage, awake again, immortal. How lovely, for a breathing corpse. The styles of his past life are deader than poor Harold or Bob or Theodore, or what's his name this time. Yet he still cuts the wired jaws of fashion, with waistcoat pressed, pulled tight over corset ribs. Tall leather boots with the too tall heels and violet velvet cuffs. Frilled collar and sleeves more suited for the southern belles that gaze at him like the finest fur coat still attached to the wolf. And he gazed back. Owlish eyes throwing the night over their sun skirts and hair-pinned ringlets. A dandy, more modern, morbid, strutting into a second life because he outgrew the coffin of the first. Dead, but not forgotten. Urban propriety pricked with the heat of gossip, a lady nudges her sister. Who is that man? The one with the hair once braid woven, now laid in layers of dark waves down his back. The one with the wide-brimmed hat shielding his face, casting himself in a silhouette under summer sun. The one that stands on a hilltop boneyard like a shaded willow swaying to ghostly suspiration. Who, that man? The one with velvet heels, forget-me-nots bound in periwinkle embroidery, which clip crisp on cobblestone path? The one whose tight-laced waist and painted lips contrast the thunder tugged from his throat with each madam and man? Yes, that man. The one whose only madam or ma'am is a polite greeting, none to hold by the hip, none to hold him by the hip. The one that handles our dead as he does a flower-pinned collar, with gossamer touch and pinpoint care, preserving stories in formaldehyde, giving corpses one last chance to be heard. That man. I know him only by the macabre chill of his beauty, so tragic the softness in his eyes that see what's buried in rich valleys. Years and years and years, so many years of songs no longer sung, dances no longer danced, end up in his morgue. I wonder, is that why he leaves his hair long and free, to give ghosts something pretty to braid again? All right, it's about to get a little religious, so brace yourself for something. Genesis. Paradise, rolling golden hills, pillars of fig perfectly ripe, the smell of fallow on the breeze, thirst for what is not there. It doesn't belong to you. Serpents curl around the branch, stretching, reaching, wanting. Sweet briar fingers prick the fruits of his vine. Tart blood of his lips, plump for the picking, trickles down, 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 down. Eyes, born of redder than bone, look up. An angel smiles back at her, dawn-scented hair blooming fine-reed, claws that caress, horns spun in an ivy crown. Will you eat from me? Will you taste my heart? Will you stay in your soul for a life? His voice is silken, sticky, sickly sweet. It doesn't belong here. Then why is it here? Why does it flood my body with the light of heaven? Drink, drink, and drink again. A cup in my hands. Sleek, ruby glass reflects the same pigment on the water inside. Water, scentless, tasteless, looking like wine. Imagine the vine that once gave its fruit to fill a bottle, an amphora, vessels sculpted from earth, artisan hands drawing, cracking, from residue trailing the hairs of a paintbrush along clay, the visage of Bacchus in black, a silhouette on terracotta. His ivy crown extending, circling the spout like a nest hugging its young. A cup in my hands. Not glass, not clay. My finger rubs the rim. A squeak reverberates like the tweet of a songbird. Imagine a queen's goblet, gilded in gold and decorated with visions of springs where a songbird, a robin, flies to a blossoming branch, stuck eternally in a state of arrival, never landing on the branch but never turning back. The queen chortles as she sips, sending tart wine over the edge to drip down the carefully crafted art of her chalice. Oblivious that the glass the robin is trapped in still holds the sound of its chirp. A cup in my hands. The crimson hue of the water only an illusion, a dream. I dream that it is not water, but blood. The blood that weaves my heart to the ones before me, mothers, fathers, daughters and sons, kings and queens, nymphs and gods, so far away, so untouchable, voices silenced by time, only echoes. But still, the echoes reach me. I am a Maenad, mortal blood touched by the divine, maddened by the desire to drink from my god's kylix. I am a handmaiden, delicately wiping smudges of rouge from my lady's goblet, sneaking a sample for myself. Just as I would then, I lift the glass with lips stained with the wetness of my last sip, a gesture I return to as my thirst lingers. These next couple poems touch on my background a little, growing up in a small Midwest town. Even though mine was in Illinois, they're kind of all the same. But my neighborhood was specifically near a nature reserve. The Lost Roads. I live by a road called Chickaloon Drive, a block down from Ojibwa Lane, which reaches out from nowhere, an old road made into a dead end. My house, its periwinkle shell, is now gray from bright days and clouds of dust from new homes that bury wildflower fields I can't remember the smell of. But through patches of shoddy tar spills, the road stays in its loop. From a neighbor's window, stereo crackles an old record, recorded on degraded tapes, a buzz behind the acoustic pluck. That static buzz sent from outside, a thrum through gaudy wire poles, plastered musty with rain stain, sun bleach over strips and strips of flyers for attractions, long gone, now only existing in the mouths of ants. Behind the cracked road that pole guards strips of thicket, tracing the way to wider woods, with footsteps cast in mud and deer ears, flicking off dew to cup and catch each footfall, radio clip, and guitar string. The acoustic pluck waves out to the dark, backlit by bonfire, and echoes back a chorus of howls. One strumming hand, one wandering foot, one lingering eye, becomes a pack of coyotes chanting untold stories. A coyote cacophony for only a moment, a breath, before trailing back to the forest shadow. I live by a road, Chickaloon Drive, that lives beyond the wire poles. Chickaloon Drive, a trail only traced through doe eyes and oak whispers. This one is about my dad. Retired grazing. I saw the village elder overlooking his valley of bowls from a wicker throne on a concrete mountaintop. Porch platform, plaster columns caging the door to the castle. The door with cherry paint in a pallid frame. The village elder swings his cherry oak cane at barn swallows that know his scent and treat it like poison. He grunted like a bull with a scarred nose, sneaker-shoed hooves marching back to his creaking throne, dark eyes grazing spring grass. He was an old bull, giant still, but not as giant as before, hair struck white and wiry, but combed just like it was, with his regalia of pressed cotton shirts and shiny tie pins. An old bull in a valley of bulls where bulls never roam. This will be my last poem, and it is about weather, I guess. The year without winter. I remember the first year without winter by the haze overhead, unbreaking. I knew thick vapors, caustic and sour, a feather-light sludge of smoke and oil, but it looked like any other storm, where air prickles and smells of wet copper, where deep clouds bend like giants, too far to touch, too large to outrun, a wave so unstoppable, the sight molding me an ant in its path. I wait, corrosive shivers rusting my gut, for its foot to fall, for the giant's titanic hand to thrust down and crumble what's beneath my feet, just bone meal, congealed in forest pulp. But Mother Nature heralds the end, not with trumpets, but flutes. Each rainfall bites more pavement, each blizzard, cities now prisons, each tremor bursts more of her own seams to swallow her own children. She's taken winter away and made it muddy. Wet chills sift through bone like irradiated worms, with one shattering, sharp storm to mock what's now longed for. Tomorrow, she will send whirlwinds to skin houses to skeletons. Tomorrow, she will choke herself to starve land and purge her blood into the street. I wait for Gaia's eruption in the sky, watch it approach in a murky sunset. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. That was great. I love those poems. Tonight's second reader is Jenna Wayland. Let me start by telling you this. Jenna is probably the most well-read student I've ever taught. Many times this semester, I've started to recommend a book to her, only to find out that she's not only read that book, but like 3 others by the same author. Jenna is quiet in class, but knowing she's in the room makes me want to step up my game as a teacher because I have to dig pretty deep to say something that she hasn't already thought of. Besides being a talented writer of poetry and fiction, Jenna is a gifted visual artist who's also completing the word and image minor with a collaborative installation next week called The Folly of Man, about the damage we do to the oceans, especially with oil. Oil and the environment are central concerns of Jenna's writing, and I'm looking forward to hearing her read this evening. Jenna Wayland is almost done tomorrow morning with her BFA in creative writing at Bowling Green State University, where she has served as a student intern for the Mid-American Review. Her work has appeared in Folio and Collision Literary Magazine. Please join me in welcoming Jenna Wayland.
Can you hear me okay? Okay. Thank you for that lovely introduction. And can we get another round of applause for Rose? Okay. So I am introducing, here's how it's going to go. I have fiction and poetry. I will start with a small excerpt of fiction, a 3-piece, piece, and then I will segue into the poem. So I will begin with the Bengali oil eaters, which is about a young girl and about some walking oil rigs. The Bengali oil eaters, a horizon of them, enough to draw a small crowd on the dead beach. A wire hook, a half-pint milk carton, a pair of stamped sugar biscuits she had liberated half-baked from the school cafeteria oven. All of this Maria had brought with her to the white salt beach, hand-wrapped in a wax paper, and set down in a small wooden basket that dangled loosely from her brown wrist. She sat down and pulled small hairs from her head that split lovingly, thin and fine, like the hair from a goat's chin. This, too, she slipped into the basket. Her ponytail, tied with a foot's length of red yarn, whipped in the salt-pinched wind. A foghorn called. Finally, she stood, walking barefoot across the pool of sand, heading towards the water. She took the basket with her. Every now and then, the tide retreated to reveal the rainbow film clinging to the wet sand. Sometimes the film dragged backwards, and clots of oil the size of penny floaters would reveal themselves, cast by the receding waves and clinging to the beach like polyps. Bifurcated slicks smeared the coast. As Maria kneeled to finish wrapping her basket with strips of tarred canvas, she took great care not to stain her plaited skirt. A wash, even with vigorous scrubbing, could only absolve her of so much. Bivalve mollusks bubbled up from the sand, their white cylindrical mouths hollowed out like teapot spouts. The swash zone closest to the refinery was riddled with them, sensitive and scabby things, their fleshy siphons folded like funerary cowls, buffeted by the non-stop surf. They filtered the sludge currents for what little planktonic microalgae remained in the hypoxic detritus of the refinery waters. The mudded shallows squeezed oxygen from the water like a heart-squeezed blood. Maria stepped carefully around their sand burrows, squinting up at the shafts of light descending through clouds to spear the dark waters below. A screen of thunderheads slid across the open sea, heading landward. Silver mist hovered between her and the far horizon. Caught between the two extremes, distant silhouettes rode the coast. The oil eaters. It was what Maria preferred to call them, at least after noticing the thick, proboscis-like pillars drilling down from their abdominal rig platforms into the greenish bay. 3 currently lined the horizon. When she was younger, she feared that they would suck all the water up and leave only the ocean bed behind, the white skeletons of countless coral reefs and stinking fish mounds, all that remained of her favorite swimming spot. The threats of drought hung heavy over her head in those days, and she would collect tall plastic water bottles from the beach and her mother's pantry to fill and store in her school locker. Now she was older and knew better. Knew, for instance, that they preferred to suck the oil up instead of the water, and that they were created and sent to manage the offshore spill zone. Some nights she still woke up afraid of them, afraid of their metal groans and the way they walked like living things too distant to be knowable. She clutched the basket tightly in her hands and took careful, measured steps towards the reaching waves. Underfoot, she could feel the smooth ridges and rolls of various seashells, conches, scallops, whelks. Sometimes she would walk up and down the beach, searching for starfish. She had yet to find one that wasn't already laden with the stench of decay. There was also the slippery, iridescent film overlaying the sand closest to the shore. Though she tried her best to avoid it, Maria did at times have to step through the clean film, scrubbing her soles vigorously enough to peel her skin shortly after. Now she stood with her feet submerged in the greasy shallows of the coast, the wind rasping against the folds of her long, stiff skirt. In the distance, she could barely make out the slender tresses of one of the oil eater's long necks, a fount of gassing flame jetting upwards from its open top. Maria took the ribbon out of her hair and let the thick black curls unravel down her back, combing her fingers through the tangled strands. Then she retied the ribbon and hiked up her skirt, marching deeper into the sea. Odd-colored foam tickled her ankles, and she left tiny wakes in the water the farther she went. Eventually, she bent down in the water, basket held out like an offering. She waited to survey the choppiness of the current. Once she deemed it calm enough, she set the basket lightly down on the bobbing waves, finding the visible rip current that would spirit her basket out to the oil eaters instead of spitting it back up on shore. She stood up and watched the basket bob and roll away from her. Then she stepped farther into the water. Now it was lapping at her thighs. The basket was far away now, spinning rapidly on the froth-fed current. Maria thought about the milk and stamped biscuits sealed within. She thought of the oil eaters drinking deep. I move on to the poetry section. I begin with a short poem on ham radio. Islands on the Air. This old radio, this boat anchor, bristling with antennae, drowned in signal rivers. Intimacy is a turning of the knobs, a short wave of want, dead air washing up on distant shores. Grain by grain, static bands laced like catgut close the distance between you and me. The radio panels age, plastic cataracts the color of starch milk. We circle and smudge the dials like it's a love language, each year a silent key. I know you by your sending style, the Morse tail falling like a comet past the current sea. The next one is a sonnet that has its roots in speculative or science fiction. Missive from a 2098 corporate prosecutor. Brains are costly, so they let me keep mine. That means I still hoard digifiles of Botticelli, and when I hear a cicada song, I stop to listen. The rest is removed, tossed, replaced. Downers at the left vein and uppers down the right. I'm a live wire, just enough to keep me going. I don't need to kick down doors when I can see straight through them. I'm good at my job. I shed faces like dead cells, hermetically sealed specters of past lives. Who steals my genome steals trash. What's mine is open source. I get paid per respiration, maximum productivity, one step ahead. These next two are more grounded in machinery, war machines to be exact. Sea forks. On the stern of a cutter, the weapon leans back against the gun mount, like a cow hand in his stirrups, watching the sun fall. A plane cuts the blue, alloyed angel. In stasis, it waves its silver wing, squawking octal code to the birds far below. A blind encoder, signing friend, not foe. The weapon yawns through its scope, settles back against its mount. Across the iron waves, tungsten powder wafts like sphinx breath. The weapon feels around its own intestines, a belly full of lead and brushed conveyor belts. Sabots secured between bullets like spindle wings. It recalibrates its own limbs and points them skyward. The war machine. Another hen is crushed outside the chicken roost. The war machine carries her hollow-boned body across the foothills to the small farmhouses beyond the glade, stopping before their hip gables and south-facing doorways. It cradles her like a gun. Mama sweeps ashes from her earthen oven and pretends not to see its shadow. Her boy answers the door in coveralls. The machine holds out the hen and says, "Fix what I've done." The boy holds his nose and says, "There's no fixing that." Not the first war machine to walk the countryside fed up with itself, unable to guard the flock without shooting a few sheep. Hard-coded vagaries. Goodness is not part of the machine's genetic memory. It calculates ballistic trajectories and fluid pressures in the flight path of the bullet, but does not know what a bullet is or why this knowledge matters. It doesn't understand what fate is. It knows what death is only because that is what it brings to others. The palm bristles of Mama's broom rasp against the dirt floor, furling ash between flagging tongues. The boy tries to imagine the machine as something good. He looks at its two-tone skin panels, at the Gatling autocannon stuffed with spider lilies, the scrawl of Etruscan script wrapped around its hip joint, and the clutch of rocket pods nestled beneath its wings. The boy thinks they look like ceramic eggs in cylindrical cartons. He reaches out to take one, and the machine moves away. Violent mathematical motion. "These are very important to me," says the machine. "Those are a part of me." "You don't want them anyways." "Why?" asks the boy. "Because," replies the machine, "they're built to do one thing." "Were you built to do one thing?" asks the boy, and the machine looks at the ground. Pale sun races across its composite frame. The hen's neck hangs like a noose. "I didn't mean to," says the machine. It grips the hen tightly. Blood speckles her rounded tail feathers. "I've tried so hard to be good," it says, "to be something other than what I am." "Mama knows," says the boy, "but what else can a weapon be?" This next one is about oil again. This one is actually a newly revised poem. None of you have heard it yet. So hopefully it lands well. Oil homunculus. And there's an epigram by Moby Dick. Who would think then that such fine ladies and gentlemen should regale themselves with an essence found in the inglorious bowels of a sick whale? White dusk waning up, when the whale is cut from the ropes, the rind flensed free. Seamen spare the head for oil, liquid sound bailed into silver-rimmed buckets. The ambergris swells on waves, drops from the sea's abundant gray belly, like a stone baby, ebbs and wallows with the tides, weeping foam. Barefoot the augur walks up the coast. The augur is known for his reading of whales. From a baleen's arched thrill, he has pulled a clay dove. He has seen the bones, chipped tusks, teeth, and hips, and now returns to the shore, to the lump that ruptures hind guts, hardened by horse latitudes, sea-spun. He carries the runny lump to the inshore before the tide can steal it back, crossing over low tide to his tent, a white fabric beast. He sits cross-legged behind clamshell curtains, smells incense and melting iron tinged with salt. The augur parts the curtain, inviting light. Revelation is rinsed under a saltwater tap, feeding the augur's palm and fingertips a wet pulse. He splits the lump in two. Fresh testament fills the tense to dust-grit air, fecal odor. The augur folds halves into strata, gestation ongoing, each tide pooled line scattered scripture. He breathes into the lump's virgin lungs, tropic winds, bottled and shelved by name. Maui. Oil unfurls from the lump like an awakened snake, engorged on the sea's mutterings. Enlivened by the strange breeze, the oil feeds and gloats and stirs, embolisms observed. It grows tarry toes and a long black throat, swallowing in two mouthfuls its shell of hardened stone. Aruba. The augur tempts it closer on a stale breeze. Sand and peach nectar with a pinch of rotten eggs. The oil ferments in the ambergris lightless stream, seeding air bubbles through geologic time, then peels itself from the wind-fed rock to stand. The oil bobs its waterhead. It blubbers. Light squeezes through its trance body to dance freely across the tense, hand-tufted carpet. The augur sits back on his sandaled heels, watches the homunculus sing. This next one is about a legionnaire, a Roman legionnaire, witnessing a Dionysian mystery. Bacchus at night. The foreign legionnaire stands on the outskirts of his encampment and passes water, painfully aware of his own mortality, the fletching in his mind's eye, always approaching, entering, going. Greater still is his sphere of rituals, proceeding in the darkness between glances, maenads cascading wine into bell-pipped craters, glazed by leopard tongues. Noise and spinning, carousing done under cover of moonlight, a twilight parade of wet gleam eyes and thrashing feet, wailing in the chimeric language of double flutes and frame drums, and above it all, blunt-headed bull roar, cleaving the dark with its long and lustrous vibrato. And then the night opens up, expanding like a lung, and casts that through an embrasure the height of a man. Blue cities in an absence of horses, and somewhere a woman dressed in white furs, speaking nonsense words, the birds of unseen futures roosting in unseen rafters. A glimpse, and then it is over. The partition winks, shuts. The soldier starts, pulls up his woolen tunic, with shaking hands, fastens the belt. He retreats past smoke pillars, eyes burning, seeing so far into the darkness as to wrap around to the present, fleeing for the row of tents squatted on ancient shores, fleeing for them still. This next one is about the Aztec god, Xotl, the god, amongst other things, of twins, deformities, and the Mesoamerican ballgame. Xotl attends a Mets game. The god patron of the Mesoamerican ballgame has a body burdened by the weight of its own bounty, steeped with the silence that descends before a harvest. He wears black-tinted tea glasses, and during the rapt days of summer cries easily. In the cool evening, he walks around Queens, baggies of boiled chicken and chapati in his coat pockets, feeding the stray dogs that worship the back of his heels. On a day when the dogs hide in back alleys, swirling with heat, licking salt from brick walls, he circles the rotunda of Citi Field, trash in the wind, trading thermals with the wheeling gulls overhead. In that sweltering spiral of heat, he buys himself a ticket and crosses the bridge that connects the inner city to the outer field. Before he goes to his seat, he noses around a bit, since the gods are nothing if not curious. He walks around the food court, drifting from stall to stall. Mexican sweet corn blankets a flat-top grill, simmering in grease and butter pools. Behind the center field scoreboard, he spies a batting cage, a dunk tank, game kiosks with neon faces. False gods, but loved, which in a sense makes them real. Eventually, he finds a seat in the nosebleed section, high and away from the crowd, soaking up the animal excitement until he's drunk on it, until the throbbing heat and drum rumble thrums in his chest like a second heartbeat. The first batter steps up to the plate and strikes out between sentences. The next batter squares his shoulders, and the pitcher contorts his body into an ampersand. He throws the ball with its solid rubber center, stitched with white horsehide, its Aztec essence closed. And it curves like the helm of a conquistador, curves like the neck of a goon before it dives, curves like the trajectory of a doomed empire. There is a loud crack, and the ball sails to meet the sun. Beneath the god's feet, the bleachers rumble like thunder. He leaves before the final inning, watching the horizon bleed, noting with an ancient empathy the moon's hesitation. Eventually, he turns down a vacant side street. No dogs wait for him there. He takes off his glasses and weeps, his fists pressed against his empty eye sockets, aching for something beyond that which is bearable, tilling for his own resurrection. This is my last poem, Ars Poetica for Anglers. You have to stand in the water. If you refuse to do this, nothing will happen. The face of the river will rush right past, and the fish will rush along with it. The words will mire and grow soggy on your tongue. Worms on a hook with no mouth to move them. Depending on your methods, you might prefer brook battle and foaming bottlenecks of bream. But maybe the estuary is more your speed, the dapping of the snare, staccato across brackish weeds. I had a friend who swore by the coast, the weight of a marlin in her arms, swords of prosody cleaving open sea. So you have to stand in the water. You have to hike skim waders above your timid ankles, fasten red wire wool around the silver hook of your line, cast out, madden the fish with the color of your inquiry, the feathered song that transfigures voice into verse. When I reel in a line, it is only because I have snagged someone else's mouth. Thank you.
That was awesome, Jenna. Thank you. Good evening. I am Abigail Cloud, and it is my great pleasure to introduce our final reader of the night and of the year. What? I know. Merrick Glass is a poet of deep truth, that is capital T truth, the truth that is real, raw, inherent in the narrative of each piece. In the last few years, Merrick has been a digger, a wrestler, a sentinel, an oracle, a catalyst, and a memory, all in the context of speaking through vibrant, incisive imagery and pointed, powerful language. This term, they have applied that craft also to the realm of nonfiction, in fact, asking me earlier today how you tell if and when creative nonfiction has become poetry. I don't know the answer, and I'm glad Merrick doesn't, because it means a hybrid adventure without limits. It's been a privilege to work with Merrick. Please welcome him to the stage.
Can you guys hear me? Mike, can you give me a thumbs up? Can you hear? Thank you, Mike. That was really sweet. Thank you, Abby. Oh my gosh, I could cry. I might. Can we give one more applause for Rose and Jenna, actually? Okay, so I'm starting off with a rather shorter poem, which just kind of came about just staring at some fruit and going through a panic attack, you know. So this one's called Clement Print / Skinning Off Fingerprints / Juiced Out Nail Beds. Clementine's hangnail peels back enough to bleed a leak. If I skinned the leech alive, what would it look like inside? No core, but bones maneuver outside a shell. So soft, a bump would break spine, collide between spoon and tongue. I taste iron in the thick of it, spit up and back out of an infinitive, too infinite for me to swallow, then keep down. And then this next one is quite one of my biggest poems, if it is a poem anymore. It's a funny little girl. So this one is called Define Lovely, Part 2. Lovely, like a pink bow in her blonde pigtails, or a lovely, like red wine, red stain on a red dress, synonymous to beautiful. Beautiful, pleasing to the eye, the only pleasure there is to be pleased by is made of aesthetics for the sight, but not a male gaze singularly or objectively translated across all bodies like butosis or humosa and attractive. To the eye, to the mind, to the hive mind, by beauty or charm of wits, to please another wits, comely, fair, sightly, bonny, for all who are dishy, full of good-looking gossip, a toss-up of British bodies with the exquisite, extraordinarily beautified like an extreme lovely, or otherwise for the man, handsome. When did this turn masculine? Still, a red dress covered in red stains from red wine can't be classified as handsome, when handsome is objectively for suits, for men in suits, never are suits for non-men. Or they'll have competition in the category gorgeous. A dazzle, a twinkle of starlight, a light, a sparkle, dazzling beauty captured in the picturesque. Aesthetic or a suggestive to the aesthetic or suitableness for a picture. Pretty like a picture, pretty. By doll standards, by Barbie, not Ken, by Greta Gerwig's Barbie, or skinny like a model, or sunflowers who take up space. Take it out. Poised with deranged grace, a ravishing, stunning view for the scenic. Seeking to be photogenic or fit or somebody else, as long as not our own. We are always seeking for more. Yeah, that was a mouthful, but it's just kind of how we define lovely and all the synonyms, and there's so many synonyms out there to lovely, but we still criticize ourselves. All right. This third one, like Rose, I love to talk about daisies. And so this one's called My Daisy Dress. My daisy dress is bruised, still stained maroon and pruned to bare ankles, cuffed, frozen like meat chunks. My mind's game plays tricks on me, red light, green light, on icebergs in his bed, down to the basement. Daisy stayed on while they laughed upstairs, drunk off bourbon and whiskey, puke over birthday candles I drank up, flames of shame, fine lines, white lies. They didn't believe me. They don't believe me now, as police navigate through a front yard of Daisy's paved to pathway his porch. And then this next one is a smaller one, but it's based on a crystal, aventurine, because I just like crystals. And I don't know, this one oddly reminds me of my grandmother, which I sometimes write about. So this one's aventurine. Aventurine laced her neck in glossy spheres, like pearls, never beads. She knew her spirit to be a stained glass mirror, a mushroom body, cursed to be soft, tender, eaten alive till he spits her back out and turns the blush of skin into silk, silvery armor. 8 legs spread about around his esophagus, fed to Venus's flytrap. Okay. And then this one's my non-fiction piece. I'm sure Mark will know it since it came out of his class. It's still in the revision process, but I really wanted to share it just because I was having fun with it, and it's not something I've ever done before. I also want to preface it with a little trigger warning, self-harm, fun stuff. And a lot of my like works are also just trigger warning about sexual assault, other fun stuff. So this one's called How to Non-Binary Gender. Pick one. You were born female, a girl, a woman, a womb, 2 breasts, not just a chest. Part 2. You must clean up the kitchen, your act, your underpits. In the shower, to save water, you should apply cream, then the blade in order to shave. Shave it all, shave the legs, shave the you know what. Don't forget your mustache or unibrow. Who's Frida Kahlo? Trim your eyebrows too, they're too bushy. You want to be single past 32 like crazy old Martha down the road? God, you're starting to smell like her bun too. Your pigsty, bird's nest, greased up pan of a bob cut needs properly maintained. Wash your hair every other day, but not every day. No more nor less than weekly. Don't want you looking like you're homeless or your father. Almost there. Yank off that plaid flannel, your khaki pants. What are you, a man? Stop, not those either, and those chains. Where is your dress? At the Goodwill? Good God, put on a skirt, at least with heels or even flats. No heels or flats with pants, though. Neither dress nor skirt with tennis shoes. Never both, either or. For heaven's sake, where did you get these? At least wear tennis shoes with those shorts. If you're gonna look like him, do it right. Is that why you're doing me like this? Am I a bad mom? Honestly, why are they so baggy? Are you covering something from me? Outed. We'll need to send you away if you keep doing this, copying your friends. We got lucky your sister noticed the marks all over you. I bet you would have just kept going, which is why you need to stop, or else you gotta go to a mental place. Are you listening to me? Merrick, Elizabeth, get back here. You're not allowed to close your bedroom door anymore. On the run. I plug one earbud in, leave the other out. Maybe if I shaved my head, I would get kidnapped. I won't get kidnapped if I shave my head. Then the vans won't slow down, and the rundown jalopy won't circle my house 3 times. And the clocks could hit past 10 p.m. Instead, I go at 6 a.m. When I don't picture my naked chest chopped to pieces on the sidewalk to Lakemore Park. Instead, I chopped my own thighs up to hell where mama can't reach me. To therapy. My ankle-length navy blue skirt gets caught in the car door. A little old thing, really, a Toyota Matrix. I thank God it wasn't my hair this time. After I recollect fabric from steel, I throw on a cologne tester from my boyfriend's to my neck. But the wind's cross curls with strawberry lip gloss and mascara starts to drip down into the extra small sports bra, a makeshift binder of shorts. I scream with Olivia Rodrigo, with my car Cynthia, with my phone ringing mom. She said she'd send me away, and she grabbed me by the wrist and trying to turn them over, and her nails dug into the wounds, but I ignored the burns as I kept them face down. My therapist doesn't say anything for a while. She takes a breath, jots some notes down, tries to look me in the eyes. My focus dots around the room to anything but her. Now, the aroma diffuser, Miss Lavender and Lemon, the fidget toys in the basket under the table are kind of gross with fingerprints and random stains and occasional dust, and I picked my favorite one out. Black and white blocks all connected like a miniature staircase, twisted by fingertips. The year-old scars keep staring at me. Have you told her how this made you feel? She asks. No. My shoelace is undone. I twist the black blocks against the white ones. Do you want to process this right now? Maybe. I don't know. The blocks bend against tension and the toys break. Scatters on the skirt. Angry. All the time. I finish with a sigh. I'm sorry. We sit there, me on the couch, her in the chair. I pull myself up to face her, and she sends me a look in her eyes that screams, "It's okay. No need for apologies. If you want to break more, please do so, actually. There's a lot of built-up anger with nowhere to go. Are you still running?" No. What if I don't want to be a girl? Nor a boy? I would have asked. At some appointments, I am a girl. In others, we talk about mom drunk driving or my ex-boyfriend's touch dirtying me in a permanent way. And the showers are never enough. They unbind me, both far too little and too much. The breasts fall, the hair curls everywhere, and my guts spill out. Okay. And then with 8-ish minutes left, I'm gonna jump back into poetry. And then this one's a little more experimental too, especially with the syntax, even though you can't see it. So this one's called Growing Pains. Forgive, but never forget, forgo a temporary body. Dispose of my ashes as cotton candy disintegrates in Lake Erie, feeding the next generation lies. The cake icing cries, carbon copy. A caked up face for resellers to inflate resale values, bargaining meat like a fucked up way to rearrange Bratz to Barbie to butterscotch baby dolls. Forgive, but never forget. Forgo a temporary body. Hobbies of sand stuck up where the sun don't shine, a lighthouse with no light, a princess in a tower let her hair down, chopped it off upon return, no more memories. To feed the next generation lies, the icing on the cake cries, carbon copy. Puzzles of organs wrapped in tampon strings and UTIs, and never some condom from a guy that would rather buy a pocket knife or sewing kit for a husband stitch. Forgive but never forget, forgo a temporary body. Baby vomit, blackout drunk vomit, vomit from a girl that entered our world, girl meets world, but actresses become women faster than a show can try feeding the next generation lies, and the icing on the cake cries, carbon copy. She tries to spell it out for him, with scales for lips and seething, screeching vocals. He returns her limbs to 1 flour, 2 milk, 3 eggs, and 4 sugar. And forgive, but never forget. Forgo a temporary body, feeding the next generation lies. The icing on the cake cries, carbon copy. Okay. And then this next one is, I'm just going to jump into it. It's a lot to preface. So this one's titled, We Can Go Only So Far. Your larynx lies in the surging sea aisles, while my vocal cords fill just to burn, turning over crimson waves into red-hot bile. A miscommunication trope, a ship torn by an acre that sits in my chest, a rusted cycle between cores. We retreat into a lost sovereign of sorts. You scale a fine line, swimming a mile between concord to discord just to mourn my stitched up and still arteries. Bloody dials pile on deck like amphitrite, turned a blind eye to trespass temples. Newfoundland's fish so vile, my boat takes both of us out with the storm. And then, yeah, I'm gonna read these guys. I was revising them at 4 a.m., so these are fresh off the dot. But I'm liking them more and more as I revise, which is never gonna end. It just never ends. So this one's my existential crisis about doing a thesis. Please, Pluto, eat my poems. Kitty litter and kibble laced with strings of ivy loiter apartment grounds. The garbage truck takes out silver linings, counting sheep for what if sleep. 1, 2, 3, 4 lines for motion classification. My professor grinds poems out of dill and time. Thighs chafe from sharp-edged razored highs for validation. I break out in hides. 5, 6, 7 planets circle our months. I taste Jupiter on the tip of my cat's stripes. The eyes in her coat pattern curve to relent and repent disorganization. Where do I go once the fruit flies wed my thesis? Please burn my bookshelves and bed sheets on the grill. Serve it with snake skin like a spring roll, so soap and sugar won't idly sit in salsa bowls. All right, so this one's called Burns of No Belong. Syrup of honey and pine slip between fingers, off my tongue and down the throat. He thins my blood and blurs visions between memories of us in that bed like a swine's nesting grounds. I know I shouldn't drink this much for this long to avoid becoming my mother, but God, I hate seeing his face. All the video calls, noon to midnight, gone to waste like a pig's carcass, or better yet, a hog devouring his corpse. By God, I'll be devout then. I'll pray with the bees and their hums, lie in their forests and fields. Name each pig penned after Greek goddesses. Seasons of smoking lavender, plucking dandelion heads off, screaming, "Mother!" Instead, I scramble through cornfields. Drunk off dandelion wine, crossing lines, crossing railroad tracks, playing chicken, playing God with his own blood coursing through my veins. And then I think I'll end off on this guy, where I kind of mix my traumas together, so it gets very confusing. So a lot of it comes from my mom and my ex-boyfriend, of course. And so this kind of just encapsulates all of those feelings in this poem. Alcoholic seamstress. One needle, two strings, through and through, pull my lips together. There's nowhere to go for my red hot vial. Choke it down. A vial and flask from the fabric shop are full of blood from between my legs. You spill it but won't drink it, and it all smells like sangria, burns like I'm drunk off memory, dispatches of disorientations. A fury within feminine guts decomposes blue and red LED lights that sign liar. They shine through basement bed sheets that are coated like it's just ketchup. Am I a leftover to be cleaned up? The bed frame deteriorates under body weight and my body glues itself inside silk pillowcases. Feathers and fabric fucking sewn into skin. A stench seeps out in gallons of piss held in. My red wine reflects your face. Did I ever leave your place? Thank you.
Of course. It was still going. I'm